Welcome to monolingual land. I grew up in the outer suburbs of western Louisiana. It's a very religious town due to the 1980s, the impact of rising crime rates. I spent most of my childhood confined to the house, middle, until Halloween night in 1980. 13-year-old me, I experienced the taste of freedom for the first time. That night, I was allowed to hang out with a group of my closest friends, go out to play. Only midnight, convincing my mother to unify the plan, is Patrick. He's my good friend Marvin's 17-year-old brother. He is alarmist among his peers, intimidating, but in the eyes of adults, but a good student with excellent character and learning, devout Christian, although he was reluctant. But he agreed to spend the night with us. We're in Marvin's basement, with a VHS recorder with poor image quality. Watched 10 on Friday the 3rd, part of the 6th installment. Looking back now, and I thought, you know what? This movie should have been made that night. The most thrilling experience. When Patrick entered the room, our laughter stopped in an instant. He is not very tall, but the posture of walking is imposing. Although I don't feel good about him, but I know that even if he is trying, can't ruin my mood that night. Ha ha ha. At the insistence of Marvin's parents, we started There were about 5 or 6 people there, not counting Patrick's words, except for Rob's little brother Lenny. The other children were me through church, or from school. Lenny was probably only 7 or 8 years old, wearing a clown costume. Except for Lenny, I still remember how I and Marvin dressed up. We all dressed up as members of Joe Gooey's death squad. One also brought one on purpose. Old black paint, vacuum cleaner, for added effect. 10 o'clock, after completing the activity, 2 people went home separately. We enjoyed the candy we collected. He was laughing. Didn't notice it at all. Patrick is leading us far, away from those bright white houses, as street lamps dwindle until they disappear completely. Our laughter. Gradually, the crunch of leaves beneath my feet, and the rhythmic calls of distant bullfrogs. Stagnant water fills the air, and the smell of rotten paper cups. Marvin gave me a little nudge. His smile vanished. Man, he whispered, where do you think he's taking us? And finally, we're getting closer to the bay. Stopped in a small marsh clearing. The huge tree roots there become makeshift benches. We form a semicircle of confusion, sit in front of him, and I looked at him in horror. Take a cigarette out of your pocket and light it. He puffs a puff of smoke into Marvin's face, and I began to tell a story. He said there was a place everyone should know. Legends want to be shared. We listened to him attentively. The story of the blue silk scarf. This story, deeply imprinted in my memory. Now I'm going to recount him as accurately as possible. Although 38 years have passed, details may be vague, but this will be on the web. One of the truest descriptions of this is primitive mythology. Leather skin, born around the end of the 1940s, or the early 1950s. His body was riddled with spreading germs. Rough brown cocoon skin. The eyes are thick yellow and narrow. It's like a pinhole, due to having excessively sharp teeth at birth. so that it cannot breastfeed normally. Leskin's father was the town priest. He was terrified of the child's abnormality. He considered it the worst punishment of his youth. It's a product of Satan, regardless of illness. Child's plea. Mosh takes the newborn to a corner of the swamp. Leave it in a moss. Let it fend for itself. I was fascinated by Patrick's story. 13-year-old me already heard it on the playground. A few words about the blue silk scarf. The older kids used that name to scare us kids. Said he would come for you. This is just part of the local legend. The true appearance of the blue silk scarf. I don't know anything. On this Halloween night, I finally had the opportunity to learn the truth. The pastor doesn't know where he abandoned his baby, near a crumbling shack. This wooden house gradually sank into the swamp. There lived an elderly woman with dementia. He heard crying and walked out of the house, found the baby in that moss, and brought him home. The old woman tried her best to feed the child, protect him from outside harm, since he could barely speak. Blue silk scarves are growing up. Never learned the language. His diet includes deep sea birds and other swamp creatures that unfortunately fell into his hands until puberty. By the age of 13, the blue silk scarf is nearly 2 meters high. He began to leave his mother's house quietly, enter the town, stealing household pets for food. As we age, his appetite is also growing. Midnight, a little girl chases a monarch butterfly, stumbled into the swamp, and he never came back. Since then, the story of the blue silk scarf, it is no longer tragic. After eating children's meat for the first time, he can never go back. The missing rate of children in this town, significantly higher than the national average. Some human remains were found, claimed to be the result of being attacked by a crocodile. Despite many hunts, killed many reptiles, but the blue scarf is still at large. Parents stopped letting their children play outside, especially near swamps. Over time, blue scarves even started breaking into people's homes. One of the Calloway twins, after disappearing on the edge of the school playground. People don't simply blame crocodiles anymore. Instead, start staring at the window for safety. At this point, Leskin began to spend a lot of time stay in the water, climbing roots among muddy shoals. Anyone who meets him might mistake him for a floating piece of wood. Even alligators. Few people realize how close they are to death. Some hunters may have seen a blue silk scarf. The rundown cottage that calls home. It's in a swamp, interchanged with a slow-flowing bay, half submerged. The house was built in the 1870s or 1880s. Built by the father of the adoptive mother of the blue silk scarf. At that time, it's still dry land on the banks of the river. If developed properly, this could have been a thriving town. Replace a town a mile north of here. With the end of apartheid, and in the 1968 presidential election, Governor Wallace's failure, the racial tensions in Louisiana reached the peak. At the same time, regarding the sightings of Leskin in blurry photos gradually increase. Local newspaper with a dwelling in the swamp. Deep Creole poet model highly fantastical reporting on the subject. This series of events inspired the curiosity of a group of racist thugs. With anger, on a warm July night, the thugs invaded the quagmire, along with the sheriff's men. They may not be able to, or by boat, finally came to the dilapidated house with blue silk scarves. During the search, they only found the dementia, old woman, although he is still alive, but has lost the ability to respond. And this went on for 2 years. During this time, he depended on his son for life. The group soon realized he was the only resident of the house. They were led by the stench to the narrow upstairs. A mountain of small bodies was found, most of the Nord bones. During the subsequent interrogation, the old woman passed away tragically. This is the only survivor of the incident that night, a teenage clerk from Ruvio's hardware store, after a few days of regaining language skills. Like the reporters around his hospital bed described situation, he described that during the interrogation, the door was suddenly ripped off the anklet. A shadowy figure broke into the hut. Like a metal barrel, it withstands the attack of bullets and tore the men to shreds. The only survivor jumped out of a fragile fan. Mold-covered windows were able to escape, leave the screaming crowd behind through the vine maze covered in blood. After spraining his ankle in a panic, he crawled into a moonlit clearing, finally rescued by a police vessel used for a search. The deputy sheriff on board looked confused when the second search team, when I found the old house, they found the remains of the group scattered everywhere. The villagers decided to burn down the house. As the fire spread, its ancient foundations have finally collapsed. The whole house was submerged in muddy water. No one knows what happened to the blue silk scarf until today. Our small town is still part of the United States, one of the regions with the highest rates of missing persons. Some say Leskin is still alive and well, thriving in the swamp. Keep giving to children. When Patrick finished telling his story, he slowly released the group of children in front of him, trying to determine our confidence in this story. Degree, little Lenny next to me in a clown costume, trembling. Eyes scanned back and forth between the mangroves. Regarding the authenticity of this story, I was filled with doubt, but because of the passion that Patrick tells me, I was inclined to believe him, if I really believed him completely. Well, Patrick suggested we go to the swamp when looking for a blue silk scarf. It's not as enthusiastic. Ever since I saw you walk with me, I've always wanted to experience that. The sense of freedom depicted in the movie. 1 hour to midnight, when Patrick proposed to go to the swamp, when looking for advice on blue silk scarves. I jumped up from the roots of the tree, enthusiastically support this plan. He put his hand on my shoulder, addressing the other children, encouraged them to follow my example as we trudged through the swamp. I'm starting to wish I wasn't in such a hurry. Answer the call. 5 minutes later, our expedition has officially begun, although 1 or 2 people decided to return to the town. Some of us carry flashlights. That's parents for safety reasons. Equipment for us. These flashlights, and the occasional moonlight through the canister, barely lit our way. We're going up as high as we can, walking on dry land. But even so, I can still feel it. The ends of the trouser legs gradually become damp. Marvin and I tried to stay behind the line, talking and laughing like two hunting dogs. It was filled with sound, 8 chirps of cicadas, and the sound of currents in the nearby bay. Suddenly Patrick raised a hand. "Tell everyone to stop. Tell us he saw movement from the west." "That's a blue silk scarf," he shouted, with a malicious smile on his face. We all stopped, look around, trying to find the reason why we suddenly stopped. The wheelchair's breathing quickened. His brother pushed him forward. "See this step?" Patrick decided to take it a step further. He said aloud, "You are the youngest. The blue scarf will want you, just like this, under everyone's booing." Lenny was forced to take a few more steps closer to the water's edge, although he was obviously very afraid. But he was more afraid of going against the wishes of a group of older children. So he did, wearing a white clown suit with blue and red polka dots. He took a few nervous steps. We're yelling around. "Just kidding. Oh my God, is that a blue silk scarf?" Lenny turned around sharply, almost lost her balance, and fell into the water. Now, tears streamed down his white face makeup. "Come on, it's not funny." And he screamed, and we bent over laughing at the joke. However, these words, deeply engraved in my memory, because they became his last words. Suddenly, a torrent runs up the narrow stony bank. A giant crashed into Lenny, bite his ankle as he enters the water. He screamed in pain and fell to the ground, dragged to the rear. Me, Patrick, and Marvin were paralyzed by fear. Manlin's brother Rob rushed forward, trying to drive away the black figure, until he jumped into the water. We just woke up from shock and regret. It's like Rob grabbed him next to him, stopped him from fully charging into the bay, and Lenny was caught by what we later realized. It belongs to an alligator. Dragged into the water, we're all standing there, drenched, staring at the tragedy in front of you. The beast began its death roll. Lenny's screams came periodically, that surfaced again and again, dragged back into the water. Those screams, I still have nightmares to this day, echoing in my ears. His dying breath floated to the black water in the form of bubbles. Face. Less than a minute, maybe less time. The white foam caused by the struggle has disappeared. Our eyes followed the disturbance in the water, move slowly towards where the mangroves are torn together. Rob fell to his knees beside me, gently poked. I heard Patrick swallow, then turn around silently. "Walked along the way you came." Marvin and I helped Rob to his feet. "Follow Patrick." Just caught up with him. He suddenly turned his head, angry, warning us, "Don't tell anyone what happened tonight." I tend to follow his advice. So is Marvin. But we all know Rob can't do it. Patrick sighed. "Take Radish's arm and take him away from us." I looked at Marvin in confusion, but he just shrugged. Soon after, the two are back. Rob cried even more sadly, and Patrick just sniffled coldly. Come home that night. It's already 12:15 in the morning. My mother immediately knew that something was wrong, although she insisted on asking. I still told her I was just exhausted. It was past my bedtime, more than 3 hours. So he let me in and went to bed. But that night I could hardly sleep. Tears keep flowing until I heard the siren from the direction of Lebut. The next morning, Mother came into my room, sitting quietly by my bed. He told me in a soft voice, "Rob's little brother Lenny is missing." Then he asked me if I knew anything. I replied in a trembling voice that I didn't know. And then there was silence. Mother leaned over and hugged me. I wept on his shoulder. After a while, he let me go, gave me a faint smile, and left my room. Of course, they never found Lenny. Didn't find it either. His remains. I haven't seen Rob much since that night. I've always been friends with Marvin until he moved to Baton Rouge at the age of 19. I rarely go back to my hometown, but recently my mother passed away. I haven't spoken to him in years. Never even met him. The funeral was organized by my sister. He is now the old man who lives in the family with his own family in the house. During the mourning period, I stayed at his house for a week or two. First time, really got to know my nephews and nieces. I was hanging out at a local store a few days ago. I worked at this store in the summer of 1990. The layout of the store has hardly changed until I realized the new owner is an old classmate of mine in front of the third row of shelves. I stumbled across him. At first I could hardly recognize him, but he recognized me right away. He is the radish. Even as the years go by, guilt still haunts him like kudzu. I can see it in his gray eyes and broken smiles. Feel this clearly. His hands were filled with a row of canned goods, trembling slightly, wedding ring, as he gradually, extremely loose on thin fingers. I don't know why. He smiles even more than we did when we were 13, and we talked for a while. They vowed to stay in touch, then say goodbye. I'm still not sure. His parents. How much did you say? The details of what happened that night. Or is he already in conflict with his conscience? Some form of reconciliation was reached. This post is my confession. I'm not sure about Blue. Is the story of colored silk scarves real? But those stories certainly influenced our lives. However, I put these stories, told my young nephews and nieces. Hope they never venture into the swamp. Alligators inhabit these waters. I'm sure it's one of them. That night, killed Lenny. What I mean is, what else could he be?